Hello, welcome back. Last time we created a rich text style system that will allow us to put different style tags throughout our font to let us have varying styles in the same string. Make sure you're continuing off after watching the last videos. This is definitely not a good one to start at, missing quite a lot. You would need to start at the beginning for this. Anyways, moving on. Today we're going to be creating animations for the text so that they can actually move and have character and style, and you can do whatever you want with it. There are two ways to do this. We can do this through actual animations, which I tend to prefer visually, and there's also font materials, which are more performant but are more restrictive. I will probably be going over both of them, but I want to start with animations. So in our letter character widget blueprint, in this animations tab down here, this is where we can create animations that will play. So I'm going to create one, and I'm going to call this, let's do slide in. Okay. We'll go ahead and select it and add a track. And we want to get our character text because that's our text box here. And if you hit this little plus here, we can find the transform. And now we have all of these exposed that we can work with. So all I'm going to do is, let's see, what would be a good time for this? Let's do 0.15. We'll go ahead and set a keyframe for 0. And at the start, I'll set this to be, I don't want that on X, actually. That's my bad. I wanted that on Y. And at the start, we'll set Y to be -20. So the text will effectively slide in. Now, you can create all sorts of different animations. Let's create another one here. Let's make this one shaky. And again, I'll go ahead and get the transform. And for this one, actually, I thought of something else fun. Let's do rotation. Okay, and let's just get the rotation here. Get the angle at 0. And let's do a full second to go to 360. That's going to be a wacky one. That'll be fun. I'm also going to find the opacity here. Some visibility. No, that's not what I want. Where is opacity? Render opacity. Yeah. I'm going to set it to be 1 at the end. And at the start, I'll set it to be 0. That makes it look smoother. Yeah. Creating animations is that easy. What we want, though, is based on the recorded style tag, we want to play a certain animation. And we're going to need to create an event here for that. So I'm just going to create a custom event. We're going to name this play letter animation. And in order to make this simple, what I'm going to do is create an enumerator in blueprint enumeration. Let's just name this letter animation types. Okay, let's just do slide in, rotation. And this is the part of the tutorial, a part where you could find your own way to play whatever animation you want. This is my preferred way, or the way that I just had done it. It's scalable, so you can keep doing it. Or if you want to, you can just have only one animation and just play it the same every time. Anyhow, once we have that enumerator, I want to add an input in here for the letter animation types. And we'll go ahead and pull out a switch here. And based on whichever one I'm sending through, I'll play the correct animation. So you see here in this animations tab is where they are. So for slide in, I'll pull out the slide in animation and we'll play it. And we don't want the slide in to loop, so we can just keep it at number of loops to play 1. But for the rotation, I kind of want that one to loop, because that one's going to look really silly if it's just constantly spinning. So if you set that to 0, it will loop that animation as long as the animation has not been set to stop. Okay. Also worth noting is there's playback speed to these animations. So you could adjust these to have any value you want, really. Like if I want this to be faster, I could set 2. You could also make a variable for those. Anyways, we now have this simple event that will play the animation that we want. So now we can go back to our dialog. Okay, so immediately after we create our widget, we want the animation to start. So we go in here and we do play letter animation. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and right click on this and we'll collapse this to a function. We'll go ahead and name that select letter animation. And that's set self to letter character. Okay, I'm going to take my style tag and we'll enter here. And so our goal here is we want to, based on the style tag, play a certain animation. Right? That's pretty simple. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is hello equal case insensitive, good enough. Okay. There could be better ways to do this depending on your project. For right now, I'll show it this way. So if the style tag equals, if it equals font, then we'll just play the slide in. And if it equals basic, we'll play the rotation. Okay, that's simple enough there. I'm pretty sure we have both here. Yes, we do. We'll go ahead and save that. And we'll go ahead and go back out to our event graph. Make sure that that's all hooked up. Okay, so now, right after we create it, it'll enter select letter animation. And depending on what style tag we're in, it'll play a letter animation. We also want to... we do not need an output because I made this a function. That's right. So right after it executes that, it'll add the child and then set the text as planned. So if we go ahead and hit play here, we can see that it's playing our animations. That spinning is so silly. Wow. That slide in is one of my favorite ways to do it. It looks so clean. So this was one way you can animate the text in your styles. But the other way would be these font materials right here. Now these are in my opinion, a little more difficult to use because when you use the font materials, they will animate, instead of one character at a time, it'll animate whatever text is in between the tags at a time in the same material, which can cause problems if you're doing like a sine wave. So I'm going to do a quick example for this rather than go super duper in depth. So we'll just create a material, we'll name it font example. And inside the material, we'll go ahead and set our, somewhere in here, yep, I'm looking for, right here, user interface in the material domain. And you'll notice this changes to just be final color and screen position. And this is fine, that's okay. Okay, I went to a previous one I've made and copied a bit of code here. And so what this does is it gets the time and it multiplies it by a variable that is just for the speed of the bob. This will make it bob up and down. And we do not need this add node. So we're plugging this into just a sine wave and multiplying it by our amplitude. And then we'll plug that in the screen position. And for final color, all we need is to plug a vertex color in there. And I forgot to add a world position node here, which we will be adding this float 2 onto. There we are. So now we can actually see it bobbing up and down. And if we were to go in here and hit play, you see the outline does not move up and down with it, but the text is doing its bob. I just added it to the font only, not the basic text. And that's just something you add in here, in this font material. Let's see what happens if we make something crazy. Yeah, that's gonna hurt my eyes. Oh yeah, that's awful. It's awful, but it's fun. You could also create shaking or waves with this. If you were to create a wave with a font material, it will be the whole word waving rather than each character moving up and down one after another to form a wave. So that depends on what you want. I prefer the latter because the former means if you try to do it for a really long word, the whole wave is stretched out across that word. There might be ways around that with font materials that I don't know about. I'm not as experienced with that. But they're really good to know about. Absolutely. Especially because there's a lot of powerful things you can do in material graphs that you could apply into your styles without needing to create any select letter animation stuff. You can just apply the font material on there. Now, there's one last thing we could do here. At this point, you could be able to do this yourself, no doubt. So I will just bring it up. Is a lot of things that games with dialogue systems like this will do is if there's punctuation, such as periods, exclamation marks, question marks in the text, it will add an additional delay before it continues stepping through. And commas will also have one, though a little bit shorter. The point of this is to make it feel like it's actually a real person talking. So for dialogue, this is what you would use for dialogue pretty much. And that's a way to add another layer there. Though, if you followed along this far, You could certainly add that in yourself. And I think that about does it for this little tutorial series. This stuff took me a little bit to learn because there's not actually a whole lot of good info out there for this stuff. So it's really cool to actually see it working, and working really well. If anyone out there knows any other ways to do this, feel free to share them. Based on my research, this is just the way to do it. So I thought I would put it out there myself. So yeah, thanks for following along if you've been here throughout the whole thing. And hopefully this is exactly what you were looking for.